The Supreme Court is set to shortly pronounce its order on a clutch of petitions questioning powers of the Enforcement Directorate. Prominent names like Mehbooba Mufti, Karti Chidambaram are among the petitioners in this case. Interesting note that some of the petitioners are themselves under the ED scanner. Opposition leaders like Mehbooba Mufti, Karti Chidambaram have been questioned in money laundering cases. Meanwhile, an increasing number of opposition leaders have also been questioned by the Central Probe Agency in recent times. We have a guest live with us on this, which is Namit Saxena, who is an advocate. Mr. Saxena, you know, this is an important judgment that is being expected from the Apex Court on the petition challenging the constitutionality of PMLA. Now, what are the ramifications that we are expecting? It is likely to have ramifications for a number of opposition leaders who are currently under the ED scanner.
Yes, so the ramifications of this order will be very huge. There are a few provisions of the constitutional validity of which has been challenged, including Section 3 or Section 5, and that whether the offences under PMLA at all are cognizable or bailable. Because both Section 45 of the Act are cognizable and bailable. So one of the arguments raised is because of the predicate offence, whether these offences under PMLA should be non-cognizable, etc. So because a lot of opposition leaders, including Mr. Chidambaram and other senior leaders of Congress or other political parties, including leaders from Maharashtra, are also involved in some of these matters. So this will have very wide ramifications on how this the act, the particular legislative enactment, is understood or interpreted by the Supreme Court today. So this is going to be a very landmark judgment. Whatever side the Supreme Court decides that, it is going to be a landmark judgment. The history of how money laundering is understood in this country.
Also, Mr. Saxena, the powers granted by the Enforcement Directorate under PMLA of arrest, seizure and attachments of proceeds of crimes have been challenged. So, in terms, what are the issues that will be addressed? Because it's a whole gamut of issues under PMLA that is being challenged by the opposition. So, what are some of the issues that, that have been addressed as far as these bunch of petitions are concerned?
So, there's a bunch of 42 petitions. Issues varying from what is the exact definition of what is the proceeds of crime. Whether a crime has to be first understood, and then you have to go forward to understand what will be the proceeds of that particular crime. Whether that predicate crime is to be first proved and then only you can go to proceeds of crime, or whether ED has very powers of seizing and forfeiting or rather confiscating properties in certain cases also. So all these issues are going to be decided by the Supreme Court. What is the exact interpretation of all these terms, and what are the exact set of powers the ED has in relation to seizure, in relation to search, in relation to confiscation, in relation to forfeiture, in relation to provisional attachment of. So all these issues are there. What are the broad spectrum of power which the ED can do? These all issues are going to be decided today, amongst other issues, including, as I said, cognizable, non-cognizable offences, bailable, non-bailable, and what are the getting bail. In ED cases where PMLA is involved, is very difficult. So, what is the scope and width of Section 45 of the Act of Nikesh Tarat and Shah, the Supreme Court by Justice Nariman? What are the ramifications after the amendment made in it? So, all these issues the court is going to look into, and this is after a mammoth hearing running, across an entire month during peak COVID. So, this is going to be a very interesting judgment as well.
Also, Mr. Saxena, obviously, Enforcement Directorate has come under the attack of, several from the opposition. So, and of course, this is a bunch of petition that challenges the PMLA itself. But over the last few months, we've seen several opposition leaders who have come under the scanner. Now, of course, Sonia Gandhi herself being probed by the Enforcement Directorate. Now, do you think some sort of a consensus could be reached? Because it's the opposition that is waiting for this order more than anybody else. Of course, the union government have been saying that, this is being done as India's commitment to fight against money laundering. But can some sort of a consensus be reached? Because this seems to be, the subject of discussion as far as opposition is concerned, saying that, ED and several central agencies are being misused, by the government. So any sort of consensus or, decision that can be reached as far as this whole debate on misusing of or using of these central agencies are concerned?
See, the arguments raised before the Supreme Court are purely constitutional and legal issues. The argument raised by the opposition that central agencies are being used against opposition because the ruling establishment has control over them. I don't think this argument is before the Supreme Court directly as such. The Supreme Court will look into whether the constitutionality of these provisions is okay or not. But see, again, because like we have seen in recent past, also the Supreme Court has made certain observations in other cases. Also, they may make certain observations here also. But I think this argument that central agencies are being used against opposition leaders is completely flawed, because the PMLA Act is not new. The PMLA Act came in 2003, so it's been around 19 years of this act running its course, and it's not that that it hasn't been used prior to 2014. So this argument is completely flawed in my view, and I don't think that the Supreme Court is like really going to delve into this issue. They'll see the constitutionality. If the provisions are in conformity with the provisions of the Constitution, provisions are good to go. If they are not, then they'll be struck or they'll be read down.
All right. So you're saying that constitutionality and validity of these PMLA provisions is what is under a question, and it is going to be a landmark judgment once it comes out. Thank you, Mr. Saxena, for joining with all those views.